यद विद्याविलासेन भूतभौतिकसृष्टयः तन्नौमि परमात्मानं सच्चिदानन्दविग्रहम्. So in ancient India, the seers who were our ancestors discovered many profound truths, and those discoveries are recorded in the Vedas. You all know that. And those truths were re-authenticated, verified many times later on by the later rishis and also by the modern age Swami Vivekananda. So we'll focus on the truths related to the universe and its evolution, how it originated, how it evolved, and finally how it got dissolved into its cause. And these truths are really very much relevant even today, and it can throw a new scientific light on our understanding of modern science. I'm going to discuss today a few very fundamental cosmological principles of the Vedas, particularly of the Vedanta, further reiterated and explained by Swami Vivekananda, and how those principles can be expressed through a mathematical model related to the modern physics, and which subsequently leads to the unification. So that is the topic of my discussion. First of all, we'll see a few Vedic principles here, Vedic cosmological principles. So first principle is the creation is the cyclic process. Surya Chandramasau Dhata Yatha Purva Makalpayat. From the Rig Vedic sloka mantra, it is confirmed that creation is in a cyclic process, which means the time is cyclic. Creation started from the unmanifest, and it became manifest for some time, and again it goes back to unmanifestation. So there was nothing that it began and it will end sometime, not so. It went on eternally, unmanifest to manifest, and again going back to unmanifest. So second principle I would like to tell here, that is, before the manifested creation, there was Sat, Sadeva Saumi Adamagra Asit, from Chandogya Upanishad. Sat means the consciousness principle, which is one without a second, the substratum, the unified state, and which is the homogeneous and all-pervasive. That is the proposition. So what is now after manifestation? So it says in this next mantra, Ya Atma Sarvantaraha. It is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says, even after the creation, the consciousness principle is in and through the whole creation. That is the Ya Atma Sarvantara. It is the inner essence of the entire cosmos. So that inner essence of the entire cosmos means it is the inner essence of our own self, because our body and mind also are created. So if we try to find out our own existential essence and get to the bottom of it, then we can easily find out the essence of the whole universe. That is the mantra here. So we can understand universe did not come from any void. It was the Sat, the consciousness principle. It vibrated for a moment, then it goes back to its cause. Now we'll focus on the third, next cosmological principle. It says from Mandukya Karika, it is Grahana Grahaka Abhasam Vijnanam Spanditam Tatha. That means the observed world, that is the objective world observed by the observer. That is due to the consciousness principle vibration. Consciousness principle vibrates. Due to the vibration in the consciousness principle, we see the entire creation that comes forth. That's what it is said here. But one point I have to remember here, this vibration is apparent, because consciousness principle doesn't vibrate. Actually it doesn't vibrate, it is apparent. So what is appearance? Appearance is also given by the definition by the Vedanta. It is from Chitsukacharya's definition. The technical term for appearance is mithya. So it is told swashraya nishtha atyanta abhava pratiyogitvam mithyatvam, which means, suppose I take a product and I go to the substratum of the product. Suppose I take a piece of cloth and its substratum is the thread. So from the standpoint of the thread, the cloth is appearance. That is the definition of the appearance, mithya. So from the standpoint of the molecules of the desk, this desk is appearance. And from the standpoint of the subatomic particles, the molecules are appearance. So that is how appearance is to be understood. So finally, if we analyze a particular matter, a lump of matter, it goes to the vibration. vibrating energy packets. Energy packets really vibrates, and from that standpoint of the vibration of the energy packets, so whole creation what we see here is appearance. Now, to vibrate anything, we need a substratum against which it vibrates. It needs some background. So that background is again the consciousness principle, one without a second, which was before the creation, which is now, and which will be all the time. So that, based on that background, that is why appearance is, the vibration is appearance. So that means whole creation, whole cosmos is the appearance on the background of the consciousness principle. So now, what is this? Nonetheless, the vibration is the cause of the whole creation. Though it is appearance, it is the cause of the manifested creation. That we can understand. And what is the consciousness principle? It is said here, Atma Bhute Desha Kala Nimitta Anantarite. Desha, the space, Kala, the time, and Nimitta, the vibration. We have seen just now, the Spandanam, the vibration is the cause, which is the Nimitta. So Desha Kala Nimitta means space, time and vibration. We call it STV. Under these vibrating principles, the whole creation works. And whereas the Anatma Bhute Desha Kala Nimitta Antarite, that means what is the Atma Bhuta, that is the consciousness principle, is beyond space-time vibration. Whereas the creation, Anatma Bhutam Palam Desha Kala Nimitta Antaritam. That means the entire creation is within the space-time and vibration. That means the space-time vibration forms the basic constituents of the whole creation. Even Swami Vivekananda says here, it can be taken, causation can be taken as the vibration, he says here. And one more point we'd like to say, suppose some scientific mind can ask, what is the definition of the vibration? So we cannot really define what space is actually. Space means, it is said, the entity which transmits electromagnetic wave. Or time means it is the interval between two events. These definitions are very shaky because interval, it includes time again. And again, two events includes the time. Electromagnetic wave, it transmits, that includes again the space. So also vibration is not the parameter that is the inverse of time. It is the very cause to which space and time are the effect. So these are the fundamental principle on which we draw this conclusion. These are the summary of this principle, Vedic principle, that is consciousness principle, which is beyond space, time and vibration, which is the perfectly unified state, because anything which is beyond space, it must be one. And according to the Vedanta, if there are two, there cannot be unification. Unification means there must be one. So as long as anything is within the space-time vibration, there are many, and since there are many, there cannot be unification. So according to the Vedanta, if anything, any entity exists beyond space-time vibration, that only can be legitimately called as the unified principle. Here it is the consciousness principle, and it is perfectly indiscrete, which means the continuous function it is, and energy should be infinity here, because from that only whole universe has come forth, projected out, and it is the unchangeable existence. Now we come to the space-time vibration. So since space-time vibration are inseparable from one another, changing one will definitely affect the change in other two. That is why, according to the Vedanta, space-time vibration are one single continuum. So Einstein so far has combined space and time. We know that in relativistic theory, space-time is one single continuum called space-time. Here Vedanta says vibration also has to be included in the space-time continuum. That forms the 5-dimensional continuum. We can extend, we put the vibration into Einstein's equation, and equation can be extended for the 5th dimension. That means it will form a 5-dimensional continuum. So that is the status of the vibration here. It is not merely inverse of time, it is something deeper. And from this space-time vibration, with the background of the consciousness principle, we have two types of creation here. First type of creation is the energy bodies that create curvature in the space-time. We know, according to Einstein, all the energy bodies create curvature in the space-time. But according to Vedanta, there are some energy bodies which do not create curvature. So that's why I have divided this creation into two types. One is energy bodies creating curvature. Energy bodies do not create curvature. We know, apart from the consciousness principle, everything is created and everything is matter principle. Even our mind is matter principle. Intelligence is matter principle. Indriyas, the sense organs, are matter principles. But these are not the imagination. We know we have mind. We know we have intelligence. But what are they? They are the only matter principles, which is not the consciousness. So those kinds of principles do not have any manifested effect into the surroundings. Also, we have one candidate in the nature, which is called dark energy. So dark energy, as calculated by the quantum electrodynamics, applying quantum field theory, we get huge energy. It is about 10 to the 113 joules per cubic meter. Whereas when we try to measure, the manifested effect is so feeble. It is 10 to the minus 9 joules per cubic meter. So difference is almost like 122 orders. So it is the greatest puzzle today, it seems. They say, why it is called vacuum catastrophe? Why having this much of energy, it doesn't create any manifested effect here? So our Vedanta is going to explain why it is not creating any manifested effect, because it is unmanifested here. We'll try to set up a mathematical model for that. So now we have these candidates, that is energy bodies which create curvature, energy bodies which do not create curvature. Example is dark energy, and also the unified principle, namely the consciousness principle. For all these things, we are trying to set up a mathematical model using the quantum physics. So let us build a mathematical model. So I have taken up on a quantum harmonic oscillator, which oscillates. That means the basic building blocks of all the matter principle, all the matter or energy is vibrating energy packets, or the subatomic particle listed in the standard model. So those subatomic particles or the vibrating energy packets can be thought of as the quantum harmonic oscillator. So energy packets, the building blocks of the energy matter, and quantum harmonic oscillators which vibrates, we have taken as our sample object, test object. And we shall see, we will apply our boundary conditions on the model and see how it yields. So we have taken it is like a spring. In the classical model, it's like in the real space, it will act like a spring. And from the spring only, you have to derive Hamiltonian, the energy equation. And from that energy equation, we just convert it into quantum equation, because quantum equation depends upon the uncertainty principle. It will not draw here in the classical spring, it will draw an ellipse in this phase space. Phase space means on the x-axis you have to put position, and on the y-axis you have to put the momentum. But according to the relativistic calculation, momentum and the energy can be interchangeable. That's what I have written here. Momentum energy can be interchangeable. So on the y-axis we have put the energy or the momentum. Now, if there is a classical spring, it will draw an ellipse in the phase space. Now we will apply the boundary condition here. With that only we will develop the mathematics of our Vedantic principles, called cosmological principles. So if we try to keep the phase space area constant and try to push more energy into the oscillator, then what happens? We get the ellipse this way. It gets shrunk actually. There is a spike. Because the area is constant, which is A is equal to pi xp, and we are putting more energy into the oscillator, then what happens? In the phase space area becomes, being the area constant, the ellipse takes the form of the spike. So with that only, we are trying to derive one equation here. We have taken the area is equal to AXP, which is the rate of change of area with respect to time is 0, dA by dt is equal to 0. So we got an energy equation here. Xp dot is time derivative of p into x, and px dot minus px dot is two different directions. So x dot is the space derivative, which is the velocity. So velocity into momentum, we know the energy. So it is the classical energy equation. So now, when you want to go from classical mechanics to the quantum mechanics, so only thing we have to do is we have to just change position as the position operator and momentum into momentum operator. So these two, if we do, then what happens? Automatically the uncertainty principles will be taken into account. So we have done here exactly the same thing, and P dot has been derived as the rho here. So now we have taken the position as the position operator, momentum as the momentum operator, and applied these two into this equation to get this final wave equation. We have generated a new wave equation which will exactly explain the things explained by the Vedanta, cosmological phenomenon, cosmological principles. So exactly what physics does, the same thing. The principles, the laws which are already existing in the nature, physics only notes down the equations. Suppose gravity used to exist in the nature, how things fall, how things move. So Newton only noted down the equations. So that is what we have done. So what are the things already existing? We know mind exists. We know vacuum energy exists. So with that only we have tried to develop this equation. And this equation can be, again, I told you, taking the vibration as the fifth dimension, can be put into Einstein's relativity equation, general theory of relativity. By putting this equation, putting this factor into Einstein's general theory of relativity equation, we can modify the equation a little bit. So before that, we will see it goes to a kind of, so these more details are there in this paper, which has been published in Pramana in 2016. Now, so we have this tapering existence. This is our tapering existence. It tapers. So at the bottom of the triangle, it is the manifested energy which produce curvature, and literally if you go up, it is the vacuum energy which almost doesn't produce any curvature, but energy is more. Energy is more, and vibration goes to very, very potential state. It is not exactly the potential state. I have written it as like potential energy equation. So I have given a different name. It is not a potential, it is a like potential. If there is a potential, then it can create curvature, but here it doesn't create any curvature. So I have given a like potential energy. So the whole dynamics is known as like potential energy dynamics. So now next level is the mind and etc., all the unmanifested thing, what you call manifested, but doesn't create any curvature. And finally at the tip of the triangle, when the position is 0, E, the energy goes to infinity, and there it is the perfectly unified state. So this will explain the whole phenomenon from the bottom of the triangle, which is the matter, ordinary matter, then little bit up this dark energy, and little bit up is mind, intelligence, etc., through one mathematical model based on this Vedic principle. So this forms a tapering existence, which was told by Swami Vivekananda here. We have seen he talks about tapering existence. The thickest part is here, it tapers and becomes finer and finer. The finest is what we call spirit. Spirit means here the consciousness principle. So this consciousness principle is the base of everything, which is the real unified state. And if we accept this mathematical model, then what happens? We can explain the two anomalies of physics today. The first of all is vacuum catastrophe, just now I mentioned. So vacuum catastrophe is a problem where we know vacuum has huge energy, but we do not get any manifested effect. When we try to measure the measured energy according to the Casimir effect, it is absolutely feeble. But it has, according to the quantum field theory, it is very huge. So also there is a fine-tuning problem while measuring the Higgs boson, the mass of the Higgs boson. When we apply the Feynman propagator, we get like 10 to the 19 giga electron volt. But while measuring, we get absolutely very feeble, like 125 giga electron volt. There's a huge difference. So that much of tuning, tuning is done through renormalization. So that cannot be called fine tuning, 10 to the 19 to 125. So there's a fine tuning problem. But if we accept this model, so we can say that remaining energy remains in unmanifested state, which Vedanta very much accepts, like consciousness principle, like mind. It doesn't affect any surroundings in terms of curvature, in terms of even radiation, all these things. So this is the crux of the presentation here. Now we'll show how the Einstein's equation, there is a lot of details here. So adding another dimension, Einstein's field equation in relativity. So there is a paper mentioned here. I have worked out in details. So I have added two terms in sigma g mu beta, which is the metric tensor of applying the like potential energy. And also on the right hand side, I have added one s mu beta, which is the again the tensor of what you call there is energy tensor, which it doesn't create any curvature. Suppose I apply this equation and calculate the Christoffel symbols or the affine connections, it will not create any curvature. So that is the equation. I will apply this, and so it will not create any curvature, and that we have added this term. This is the end of this session. Now these are the main points. I have summarized everything. We have now delineated that the Vedic cosmological principles are not only scientific, but can provide viable models in explaining the universe and several cosmological phenomena, just to have explained now. Considering Vedantic proposition that vibration is the source of space-time, we have justified the 5-dimensional space-time continuum. It's the 5th dimension. It is legitimate. We can put into Einstein's equation, and we can prove also. And again, considering the states with high energy and high potential vibration, that means the boundary condition where phase space area should be kept constant and energy can be increased. So that is the condition where vibration goes to high potential vibration. That means it will not create any curvature in the surroundings. It will not have any effect in the surroundings. This particular mechanism, this particular model, we have to consider, and we have arrived at the actual unified state, which is beyond space-time vibration, which is the consciousness principle. So this unification doesn't only mean the unification of the four forces that we understand today. It unifies everything. It unifies even our waking state, even dream state, even the dreamless state, even the whole cosmos, because everything comes under space, time, and vibration. Only one consciousness principle, which can be thought of as the beyond space, time vibration. So this is the unification, and we are accounting this state of high energy and high potential vibration. We have worked out a new energy dynamics termed as like potential energy dynamics. So this is the end of the paper. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Swamiji. So it was because of the paucity of the time, he has to rush through his slides. But still it brings a totally new thing, like we can further extend, like we are talking about string theory and other things. But what you have brought here is that we can bring this vibration, so this becomes the fifth dimension, and then you can unify. And it, I mean, takes care of a lot of other things which are